Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the St. Vitus basement, and today we are here with Adam Biggs of Rivers of Nile. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. Second night in a row at St. Vitus, as if all the sweat last night wasn't enough, right?
Yep. This is a really good way to get dehydrated. Play 2 sold-out shows at Vitus,
Yeah. But hey, I mean, that's the hell of a way to end the tour, right?
I totally agree, man. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate you on all the success with Where Owls Know My Name. Now that the record's been out and processed for a little bit longer, because I spoke with Brody like when it was first out, do you have like a conclusion on this record cycle?
I mean, we do still have a little bit to go, so I'm sure I'll, update my opinions and thoughts as we go through the rest of this year. And playing the record start to finish has been kind of an interesting thing, like, just because you're engaging a reaction in real time, track by track, in a crowded room of people every night.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've got to really understand what we did on the record that works, what doesn't, what feels right, what doesn't, and I think that's an opportunity a lot of bands don't end up having.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like educated us as far as what we really are good at as a band in front of people, like playing a whole record, man.
Yeah. Is there like because I saw you guys on your tour with Revocation back in the fall, and you played a few songs off of the new one, you had to play some older stuff. So playing the record in its entirety now, is it a completely different experience, like playing these songs?
Yeah, it really is. We wrote a lot of this record with like no intention of playing some of it live, and really wouldn't even know how to go about doing it. So going into this tour was a really big learning experience, and like figuring out, like, because there's a lot of downtime and stuff when we get to curate a set of like material, and like it's like doing a support tour or something like that, we can like cut out the gaps, make it more intense, control the vibe, and sort of curate it for a show. But it's like when you're playing a record, it's like those are the emotions and the flow of things that it's just there, and like you're promised to deliver that same thing every night. It's interesting,
Yeah. I've noticed that especially with this particular record, that there's, it's a heavy record, but it is very melodic, and a lot of people say you kind of, I think somebody once said you found your inner prog with it or something like that. So like when making this record, was it more of an experimental process, or was it kind of like picking up where you left off from your previous records?
I mean, it's a little both, but definitely really a lot more heavy emphasis on experimentation. We kind of came off of the previous record cycle like not feeling the best about ourselves. Like we kind of felt like we failed a little bit on the last one. I still love the record. I love playing the songs off of Monarchy, and I think that the record holds up, but it just, the tour cycle was kind of hard for us. And then coming off of that, we were just kind of like over it a little bit, and just like nobody's listening and like we just want to do whatever we want to do. And so in the course of writing, and like like we do crazy shit, like Brody would send me some stuff as a joke, and I'd be like, yeah, let's use that.
Yeah,
because like, fuck it, I like it. It doesn't sound like anything we've done before, which is cool to me. And so there was, a lot of us going just like, fuck it, yes. Everything is yes.
Yeah. Hey, Sweet Child O' Mine, the intro riff started off as a joke, and now it's a song that's banned to play on the guitar floor at
Yeah.
the Guitar Center.
Yeah, Brody likes to check his guitar with that riff, but like completely off key.
That is torture.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, Brody, stop doing that. I worked on a guitar floor for so long. It's one of the 5 S's you're not allowed to play on the guitar floor, if you can name the other 4.
I would imagine Stairway to Heaven.
Yep.
I don't know, the other one's escaping me.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
Smoke on the Waters, and Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah. Don't want to listen to any of those all day.
Yeah, if Brody's watching this, he's probably going to test to all those.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you experiment a lot in the songwriting process, but is there ever a preconceived idea that you do enter the studio with?
Well, I mean, entering the studio for us is a different thing than the writing because we always go in fully loaded. Like it's just like the everything is written and done before we go in, and then getting into the studio pretty much is like us just committing it to tape. But this time around, there was a lot more, and like that was mostly what happened on like the instrumental front because we record our own guitars and bass and at home, so there's not like once we get to the proper studio and everything like that, there isn't a lot of room for changing things on the fly, which that might change on future recordings. But in the vocal booth this time, we just like there was a lot of like, hey, can I try this? Like, yeah, let's try this, let's try that, let's do this thing. There was so much experimentation when it came to doing vocals and like putting the finishing touches on things like that. So, but like there is always a mood coming into the studio. Like there is something that we want to achieve. There is like an end product that we always kind of envision, I guess.
Oh, interesting. Some people might find that kind of scary because if you have such an idea in your mind, you could end up disappointed, right?
And often you do. Which is in some ways, it's hard on your ego, but at the same time, it kind of forces you to do better the next time all the time. It's like feels like constantly course correcting and just making yourself a better band or better songwriters.
Now, being that a lot of people, including myself, feel that Rivers of Nihil definitely stepped into some uncharted territory with Where Owls Know My Name, do you think that this could allow you to play with different bands as well? Like, I know you're doing a tour, you toured right now with Entheos, which similar audience, but you also did a tour with Revocation, and now you're about to go to Australia to play with Nihil Bliviscaris, so...
Yeah, it feels like through whatever avenue of people's interest in what we do, it seems like it's opened up a lot of different corners of the metal genre for us, and I mean I'm very happy about that. We're not guys with narrow tastes. We like a lot of different stuff and would love to play with as many different kinds of bands as possible. So
yeah. And do you think maybe it could it opens some doors to experiment with your sound as well, even further?
Well, yeah. I never want to just keep doing the same stuff over and over again. I want to make everything we do a unique take on what it is we do just regularly. Yeah. I want to constantly like challenge expectations of just not of anything like lofty like the genre or anything, but just like expectations of what it is we do. I think if people get to a point with us where like, oh, it's another Rivers of Nihil record, it's just the same old, that's I think when I'm probably going to be like, that's enough of this now,
Yeah. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also the first record cycle which features Jared Klein on drums, right?
Yeah.
So did him joining the band allow to bring some new elements to maybe the live presence when he performs the older stuff, or into this record as well?
Well, so far, I mean, Jared had joined the band like very briefly before we did the record, and like most of the record was written before he joined the band. But he put his own spin on the material, obviously, and and he just does a very accurate performance of the other drummers from which is what I've always wanted,
Yeah.
And he does his own thing, but it's always very feels tight. It always feels nice to play with him, and he contributed vocals to the record too, which is like a first, and that was just a product again of us in the booth, and he's like, I got an idea, let me try this thing, and so we were just like, yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that I'm really curious about is being the bass player. I feel like a bass is, everybody likes to make bass player jokes and everything like that.
Yes, they do.
Everything like that. But, like, I think the bass is a very important instrument because it
Don't
is...
patronize me. I'm just kidding.
Well, because it has, it's part of the rhythm section of the band. You keep the song together, but the bass is also a very melodic instrument. So is there something that comes first for you? Are you focused more on keeping rhythm, or do you like to add melody with your instrument as well?
Yeah, Yeah. I mean, I like to, especially when I, on previous recordings and years past, I was like really focused on like showing how like sick I can be and like really like showing off and stuff. And especially with this new record, I was really like, more focused on serving the song and making, writing parts that feels satisfying to listen to, and in an audio sense, fill things out more and just it feels more responsible playing that way to me or something. I don't know. Like I try to never like lose those fundamental ideas of bass playing where it's like follow the bass drum, make sure you're locked in there, make sure all of that works first, and then add your fun melody in, like your fun melody stuff and your shred and your techniques and everything. But you got to make sure the core is solid first.
Yeah. I've always thought that it's also a stressful instrument because, you mess up on guitar a little bit, there's a lot of distortion and atmosphere. You could probably get away with botching a note here and there, but it seems like there's no way to get away with messing something up on bass.
You'd be surprised. I mean, like, I think a lot of times people just aren't paying attention to you either. I mean, like, I'd be like really bummed if I was playing a guitar solo live and I just butchered that. That's a terrifying idea in my head, but like, bass mistakes kind of go under the radar for the most part, unless they're like really awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the final question I'd like to ask you is, and this is always my favorite question to ask because I either get the deepest answer or the most like single word answer. Because I've noticed with this record there's a lot of song lengths as well, like different types of song lengths. How do you know when a song is finished?
Well, I think it's like the way we write in particular is always instrumental first, and then I come in and, me and Jake will write vocal parts and stuff like that. So that's when the song is really finished. But I think beforehand it's always about nailing down that instrumental first. And I think, once we have a song that like I think the riffs say what they need to say, and that's how you know it's over. If you listen through a song and you're like, it feels like there's unfinished business here, then you need to go back and try it again. I think it's always just a gut feeling, man.
Yeah. It's always weird. I heard from a friend of mine, Kato Kandwala, may he rest in peace. He said a song is complete when there's nothing left to take out, which I don't know if that's the best.
It can be. It can be. It can be the opposite too. It could be there's nothing left to add.
That's what I said as well.
Yeah. Either works. There's it's more than one way to make eggs or write songs. It's whatever you like, really. Yeah. That's the beauty of it.
That was the best analogy to make eggs. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time. I just know you guys your next run is with Nihil, Caligula's Horse, Allegiant, and a bunch of other bands in Australia. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with the Rivers of Nihil camp?
We have a headlining European tour this fall with Black Crown Initiate, Mole, and Orbit Culture coming up, and we'll be doing the full record there. And then we have a couple other cool things coming up that I can't talk about yet, but we'll definitely be getting around a lot this year for sure.
You'll tell me when I turn the camera off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely, man.
Everybody, Biggs of Rivers of Nihil, pick up Where Owls Know My Name if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time on Heavy New York.